Guys, why did they call this Marvel's first family? Is this not a family? Is this not a family? So yeah, this is the only MCU movie I've been slightly excited about in like years. Probably ever since Endgame happened. The MCU just does not appeal to me anymore, and I think a lot of people can say the same. We get this muddled, convoluted multiverse mess where nothing really feels like it matters anymore. Like I think a multiverse plotline can be done right, and this is not a multiverse plotline done right. I think they've been due for a reboot for a while now, and while this isn't really that, it's a story that takes place in its own continuity and universe, not really bound to the rest of the MCU. That's one of the best things about this movie. It's a standalone story that stands on its own, a neatly written narrative with a beginning, middle, and end. And I do mean this. It is indeed a very neatly written narrative. Because you know what, this is a cool movie, and you have no idea how weird it is to say this about an MCU movie in this day and age. I haven't liked an MCU project in like over half a decade, so this was super weird. I don't know, it feels like nowadays everything Disney related is unappealing, to say the least. But I did have expectations for this movie. The trailers look cool, the thing looked cool, I think the cast was mostly good. I've actually kind of been looking forward to this. And yeah, I had a great time. It's a movie with its own distinct vibe, and I didn't really feel like I was watching an MCU movie. It didn't really have that sort of obnoxious writing and humor for most of the time. I mean, it's just a very charming movie overall. It has this retro-futuristic aesthetic that honestly maybe leaned on too much on the futuristic part of that, but I appreciated what it was going for. I feel like all the characters were very well set up and realized. I was surprised by how much I felt for Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards, honestly, considering his casting was not the best, I think. Like, I love Pedro Pascal, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he really looks like Reed Richards, right? They had the perfect actor playing Reed in Doctor Strange with John Krasinski, only to kill him off in the dumbest way possible and then replace him with Pedro just because he's one of the most popular actors in the industry nowadays. But you know what? I was pleasantly surprised because if nothing else, his acting was so good that I actually bought everything about his character in a way that I've never had before with Reed Richards. Like, honestly, he was never really one of my favorite heroes. It's kind of weird how his whole thing is that he's supposed to be the smartest man alive, but also just so happens to have stretchy powers. But I did love him here, not because of his stretchy powers, even though they actually looked pretty good most of the time, but because of his character, his whole internal turmoil of having the weight of the world on his shoulders, because he feels like he's the only one who can save it. Honestly, it's actually incredibly similar to Tony's arc previously in the MCU, but we're not gonna talk about it. The Invisible Woman was good too. She was sort of the emotional core of the movie, to be honest. I mean, I feel like she was a bit aggressive at her family at some points, but even the situation they were in, it sort of made sense, so it's fine. She's such a good mom here, and honestly incredibly overpowered at some points, which didn't feel like the sort of pandering you usually see in MCU movies, but the power of a mother, doing literally everything she can to protect her child. It's a very stark contrast from how Sue was originally, considering that her only power used to be just becoming invisible and nothing else, so she was basically useless. So I'm very glad now she's one of the most powerful members of the team. I was surprised with how much I enjoyed Johnny too. Like, this was really the first time I was actually invested in the Human Torch as a character, because in this he makes an actual effort to be useful. He's a very in-depth character. It was a bit weird how literally all his clothes were fireproof. Like, is that a thing? Did he specifically make all his clothes fireproof or something? But he was good. Perfect casting too with Stranger Things boys. I enjoyed him a lot. And his attempts to bond with the Silver Surfer lady were actually important to the story in a very interesting way. But here's the thing though. The Thing in this movie was really cool. He was probably by far my favorite character. And that's for the fact that he's a really cool, good guy with a heart of gold, living his regular day-to-day life and being kind to people. And he also just so happens to be a big rock monster. Like, my favorite scenes in the movie were of him walking around the city, talking to people and buying groceries. But the problem is that I enjoyed him so much that I really wanted him to stand out more in this movie. The other characters get so much emotional depth and relevance to the story that it felt like The Thing in turn just sort of didn't get as much stuff going on. For the actual mainline plot of the movie, it's like he didn't exactly contribute much in a way that was special to him. He does things, he smashes stuff, he says the funny line, but that's kinda it, you know? His emotional plot line was sorta to just have the guts to go talk to his crutch, which is cute, and I love it, and it's, you know, relatable, but it's not super relevant to the main conflict of the movie. I just wish they did more with him. Like, I'd literally watch an entire movie of The Thing just going about his daily routine, dude. That stuff is charming as hell. And Galactus? Dude, talk about a cool villain. He's incredibly intimidating, and just seeing this giant kaiju man walking through the streets of New York just looks so cool. I've been waiting years to see Galactus actually being done well in a movie, and I mean, honestly, he could have been a way bigger threat than Thanos if they, wanted to follow that storyline after Endgame rather than just making him a one-off villain just for this movie, but it's fine. He was super cool and menacing. I've always wondered how they would have handled a giant planet-eating man in live action, and this was a good way to do it. Like the last battle in New York with him just looked very cool and cinematic, and I'm a sucker for that stuff. Now I wanna do a sort of weird and uncalled for thing, which is compare this movie to Superman. Both were highly anticipated superhero movies that came out in the same month, relatively close to each other, with previous live-action adaptations that left fans still wanting for a more faithful depiction of these characters. So I'll just say I like both of these movies quite a bit, but for completely different reasons. On one hand, we have Superman, which is by all means a very messy movie. It's paced weirdly and the narrative is weird and convoluted. And Fantastic Four is a way more nicely paced and organized movie. It has a way clearer vision for what it wants to be. It's a focused narrative that does some wacky things, but I just think it's paced way better. So by me saying that, you'd think that I found Fantastic Four to be better, right? And well, no, Superman sort of takes the cake. And it's because Superman was a movie with a message that was way more emotionally resonant. And that's not to say that Fantastic Four fails at that. It has emotional scenes with a very strong theme of family, of not sacrificing the ones you love and to fight for them. And I felt that. But in Superman, I kinda almost cried in multiple scenes with very simple things that probably weren't even supposed to make me cry. Like the whole kindness is the new punk rock thing, bro. That shit gets me. It was a movie with some messy lows but incredibly emotional heights. And in comparison, Fantastic Four is a movie that doesn't quite reach those heights. It comes close, but well, it just doesn't. It's a movie that for the whole way through it was just very cool. At no point did I feel disappointed, but I also didn't feel the emotion I did with Superman. I've had emotions, but just not as strong. So this movie is not a failure, it's good, it's definitely the best Fantastic Four movie ever, which isn't saying much, but So yeah, they did it, they managed to make a good Fantastic Four movie, for the first time ever, good job guys. Can't wait for Avengers Doomsday with Bob Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, woo, can't wait for that, whoa.